Hello, everybody. It's Catherine Ewing here from Sacred Heart Alchemy and Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. So I'm actually doing a really fun thing for the next couple of weeks. I am doing a virtual summer camp with a fabulous coach and marketer and copywriter by the name of Simone Soul. So as part of our summer camp, Simone gave us five options to do. We could choose our activity for the 2 weeks of summer camp. So, and she literally prepared like 140-page summer camp manual with all the fun things and ideas. And I'll tell you what the 5 different options were, and then I'll share with you what I chose and my first dive into the pool at summer camp today. So the first option was to set up 10 play dates, and basically those are single sessions of what we do to just really get ourselves out there more and promote ourselves. I think this was more especially important for newer coaches to just really get out there and just say, hey, this is me and this is what I do. And I thought about doing that, and then I just kind of put it aside and said, well, let me see what the other things were. The second thing was an email, 5 emails for 5 days with 5 different offers. And I decided to forgo that because I didn't feel like I would be consistent enough with my follow-up with emails, because I'm not great at doing my newsletter, which is probably why I should have done it. But, well, I can do that even when summer camp is over. The third option was a scavenger hunt, which was to invite 3 to 5 people to who I've worked with to write a testimonial for me based on a very specific way that Simone has for collecting testimonials. And I thought about that, and it didn't feel like that much of a push for me. And because I've been on sabbatical and I've been really taking some time to step back in, I thought that I wanted to use this summer camp opportunity as a way to do that. So I was looking for something that wouldn't be too much, but also would push me and stretch me. So the next option was Campfire Stories. And this would be, storytelling around the campfire, 10 stories over 10 days. And she provided, oh my God, a list of prompts so long. Some of them, even as I was reading them, I was like getting nauseous. It's like, oh my God, how can I actually get up and say this in front of people, right? Tell this story. Because Simone's idea is that the whole purpose of this is to create intimacy with ourselves and with the people that we're talking to, right? So that they really get to know who we are. And she invites us every time we think of a story or have an answer to something to ask, what's a more honest version of that? What's a more honest version of that? And so the Campfire Stories is that version of really responding to these prompts with as much truth as we can muster up, without throwing our nervous system into a frenzy, because Simone is also all about protecting our nervous systems and making sure that we're honoring and doing the work to do that first and foremost. She even has a safety officer at virtual summer camp, which I just think is awesome. Anyway, the last thing was called a launch zip line. So basically fast moving in 2 weeks, think of an idea to get out, to complete within the 2 weeks. So whether it was some kind of workshop or group thing or online coaching or whatever it wanted to be. And that was actually the first one I jumped into because I just had a whole bunch of ideas in my mind. But as I tried to get them implemented yesterday, I was running into technology problem after technology problem after technology problem, and it just sort of sucked the life out of me. So I decided to let it go, sleep on it, and come back to it this morning and see where I, kind of was positioned with all of this. So I sat down to do my morning meditation, And I sort of started writing this question. I invited Spirit in to guide me in this decision. And the next thing I knew, I was singing light language. It was just like pouring out of me. It was very emotional. I was feeling very sort of raw and exposed, but beautiful. And it was actually really soothing to my system. And the next thought I had was to bring my pendulum into the question and invite my pendulum to answer the question, which of these 5 camp activities would be of greatest benefit both to me and to those who may eventually become clients or just be in my community, in developing more intimacy and truth-telling and authenticity. So I took out my pendulum, my trusty little pendulum, which I'd show you, except it's in the other room right now, and said the name of each thing. And for 4 of them, it was just sort of still, not really moving. And for the 5th one, it started moving in the yes emotion quite strongly. And that was the Campfire Stories. So welcome to my first Campfire Story. I decided to use the prompt. Hold on, I actually have this written because I wrote it down as a story, and now I'm going to read it to you. So what's the thing I wish they taught me in school but didn't? So here goes. Here's my campfire story about that. And it's not written so much like a story, but this is my first, as Simone would say, sort of my first crappy draft. So I need to start this by explaining that I went to Catholic school from 2nd grade, which was the year they built the Catholic elementary school in the town we had just moved to from New York to New Jersey. And I remained in Catholic school right up through my first semester of college. And after my first semester, the small Catholic college that I was in dropped the major that I was in, which was library science. And I took that as a sign to drop out of school. So I left college after 1 semester. I worked for a year, and then I went back to a state school in New Jersey. So that's my sort of explanation leading into this. So, it's a funny but not funny thing about Catholic school as I recall it. Even though it's based on a religion, right, where we're taught to love our neighbors as ourselves, I don't recall seeing a lot of acts of love from the teachers or even in what we were taught. When the sort of most prominent thing is in your religion is that you come into physical form with a black mark on your soul, that's not really conducive to a lot of self-love, right? There's so much guilt and blame and, sort of self-flagellation in Catholicism. There's also some beautiful parts in it. And, maybe that will be another part of my story. But for today, it's the part about going through school, mostly, elementary school, which in a Catholic school went to 8th grade, and then high school. So I don't really recall seeing a whole lot of love expressed either from the teachers, the administration, or even in the religion classes that we were taught. It was a lot of memorization and prayers, maybe about love, but it didn't really get translated. So there was a lot more emphasis on making sure our desks were lined up properly. The corner of your desk needed to be on the corner of that tile square, that we were dressed in appropriate uniform clothing, that we were silent while we were walking through the halls. And the one I particularly loved, that we always had to raise our hand and ask permission to go to the bathroom, often asked if we really had to go. Do you really have to go right now? A little bit humiliating for kids. And trust me, there were kids who were so embarrassed about raising their hands that they ended up having accidents in the classroom. But we were, somewhat shamed and humiliated before we were handed over the golden key, right, to the restroom. So even though God was supposed to be present everywhere, I didn't see a lot of godliness in how the teachers, and sadly, especially the nuns, treated the kids. In fact, when I think about this, what comes to mind much more quickly than any acts of kindness were downright cruelty being delivered while we, as a class, or maybe the particular kid being punished, was being told that it was for our own good, right? I can still remember sweet little Nina being humiliated and sent home on picture day. I think it was in 3rd grade, because, the dress that she had come, all dressed up in for picture day, apparently had a stain on it, or was not, to the nun's liking. So she sent her home and to find something else to wear. I mean, how humiliating is that? And even worse than that, I remember the nun tearing at her earrings. She wore pierced earrings that day. They were not, typically allowed. Not many people had pierced earrings, but it was part of her culture, and she was wearing them proudly, and they were like torn out of her ears. Not love, as far as I can tell. And, more generally, kids' hands were routinely smacked with metal rulers for minor indiscretions. And as we get older, I remembered my friends, especially my friend Susan, literally being pulled by her hair out of her seat and then having her head smacked into the chalkboard, for something that she did wrong or got wrong. So again, this corporal punishment, this shaming, this making an example out of, someone who made a mistake or, even did something wrong. I'm not finding this love. So, and I don't know if I thought this as a kid, but I certainly, have thought it as an adult. How is all this cruelty and meanness being done in the name of God, right? But then when I think a little more deeply about it, even though love was preached, in some ways, the God that I grew up with and was taught was much more a God who was sort of, the white guy with the beard on the cloud watching over you like a hawk with a book, to catch you doing something bad, marking it in the book so that you could be punished. And all that stuff that went into the book somewhere when you died was then used as the deciding factor about whether you got to go to heaven or to hell. So in that scenario, love was really nowhere to be found. Kids were labeled good or bad pretty quickly. And once you were a kid with a bad or a slow or a troublemaker label, it was pretty hard to work yourself back into the good category. And pretty much all of the other teachers, on the grades above you knew what your label was. So as you were coming into their class, you came in with that, label attached to you. So back to the question, what's the one thing I wish they taught me in school but didn't? My answer would be kindness, along with an understanding that people are all different, and that's to be celebrated, not condemned and eradicated by a bunch of rules that, tried to make us all the same, right? All homogeneous. Basic human kindness, seeing each child as a unique individual and making everyone feel welcome at the table or in the classroom, are the things that I wish I was taught. I know they asked for one thing. I said 3 things. But they all sort of go together for me. And so here, here's the thing. Even though I was known as a good girl, I always have secretly been a rebel. And so I'm going to give you 3 things and not 1. And that's how I'm going to roll. So thanks for listening. I hope you liked my first attempt at my Campfire Story. And I will do my best to continue to stretch and be even more revealing and authentic and intimate with you in the next 10 days. All right, have a beautiful day now. Bye.